Welcome to G Fun Facts Online, where we dig into the most fascinating corners of our world and its history. Today, we're embarking on a journey not into the land of the living, but into the unseen worlds of the past. When you think of an ancient tomb, what comes to mind? Silence? Dust? Maybe a few spooky skeletons? But what if I told you that these places of death are actually some of the most vibrant, detailed records we have of life? The way ancient civilizations cared for their dead tells us everything: what they valued, how their societies were structured, and how they saw their place in the cosmos. So let's open the sarcophagus and peer into the soul of the past. First stop, the civilization perhaps most famous for its obsession with the afterlife: ancient Egypt. For the Egyptians, life was just a dress rehearsal for an eternal journey. Their main goal was to make sure that journey went off without a hitch. This led to the incredible process of mummification. The whole point was to preserve the physical body so that the soul, or Ka, could recognize it and be reborn. This wasn't a quick process. It could take up to 70 days. They'd remove the internal organs, but leave the heart, which they believed was the center of intelligence, and store them in special containers called canopic jars. Then, they'd dry the body with salt and wrap it in endless layers of linen. Of course, this VIP treatment wasn't for everyone. Pharaohs got the deluxe package: magnificent pyramids, tombs stuffed with treasure, food, furniture, and even mummified pets to keep them company. But a common person might just be buried in the sand with a few clay pots. And we're still learning. In January 2024, a 4,000-year-old rock-cut tomb was found in Saqqara, and just a few months later in June, over 30 tombs from the Greco-Roman period were found in Aswan. Each discovery gives us a clearer picture of this incredible focus on eternity. Now, let's sail across the Mediterranean to the classical worlds of Greece and Rome. Here, funerals were both a private family affair and a huge public spectacle. For the Greeks, a proper burial was non-negotiable. Without it, a soul couldn't get to the underworld. They'd even place a coin in the mouth of the deceased as payment for Charon, the mythical ferryman who'd carry the soul across the river Styx. The Romans took this public display to another level. For the elite, funerals were a chance to flex their family's social and political power. Picture a grand procession through the city, with actors wearing wax masks of the deceased's famous ancestors, basically creating a parade of the family's greatest hits. They might even hold gladiatorial games in the person's honor. While the rich had massive tombs lining the roads into the city, poorer citizens could join burial clubs called collegia to make sure they got a proper send-off. From the classical world, let's head north to the Viking Age. Viking funerary rites were all about their warrior spirit and their love of the sea. The most famous example, of course, is the ship burial. This was for chieftains and VIPs. The deceased was placed in a real ship, surrounded by their most prized possessions: weapons, tools, and even sacrificed horses and dogs for the final journey. Norse mythology taught that warriors who died bravely in battle would go to Valhalla, Odin's great hall, and the ship was their ticket there. Now, that dramatic image you might have of a flaming ship being pushed out to sea, it's mostly a myth. It was far more common for the ship to be buried under a giant mound of earth. Speaking of grand burials, let's travel east to China during the Han Dynasty. They believed the afterlife was a lot like this life, and you'd need all your stuff. So they filled tombs with Ming-Qi, ceramic models of everything from servants and animals to entire buildings. But the most incredible artifacts are the jade burial suits. Yes, you heard that right. Emperors and top nobles were encased in suits made of thousands of polished jade tiles, all stitched together with thread made of gold, silver, or copper. Why jade? They believed it had magical preservative powers that could stop the body from decaying and grant immortality. The famous suit of Prince Liu Sheng had nearly 2,500 jade pieces sewn with over a kilogram of gold thread. It's an astonishing symbol of the quest for eternal life. Let's cross the Pacific to the Americas, where civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs had their own complex views. The Maya saw death as a transition, and they often buried their relatives right under the floors of their homes, keeping them close. They'd place maize in the deceased's mouth to symbolize rebirth, and a jade bead to pay for the dangerous journey through the underworld, Gabalba. For the Aztecs, your afterlife depended on how you died. Die in battle or childbirth. You get a glorious afterlife in the paradise of the sun god. For most others, it was a tough, 4-year journey through the underworld Mictlan. To help, the dead were often buried with a dog, who was believed to act as a loyal guide on the treacherous path. Finally, let's sweep across the vast Eurasian steppes, home to warrior cultures like the Celts and the Scythians. For the Celts, a warrior's death in battle was the most honorable end. They were often buried in mounds with their chariots, weapons, and plenty of feasting equipment for the other side. The Scythians, nomadic warriors of the steppe, created huge burial mounds called kurgans. These tombs were filled with unbelievable gold treasures and, most importantly, sacrificed horses. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian, wrote about gruesome Scythian royal funerals where servants and concubines were killed and buried with their master to serve him in the next life. And archaeology has proven him right, finding numerous human and horse remains around a central burial chamber. So from the golden tombs of Egypt to the jade suits of China and the fiery spirit of the Vikings, what does it all mean? It shows us that death was never just an end. It was a transition, a journey, a new beginning that the living meticulously planned for. These tombs and rituals are powerful echoes from the grave, reminding us of a profound and universal human desire to conquer finality, to preserve memory, and to build a bridge to whatever lies beyond. Thanks for joining us on Fun Facts Online.